Well, good morning, everyone. And in Chiangmai, we would say "Sawadee krap." And thank you for coming to our city, the great city of Thailand, that I think everyone would wish in his or her lifetime to visit once. So thank God that you all be here, and welcome Mimi also, the late joiner. We had a great Sunday worship service at our church yesterday, preached by Pastor Gerard, and he brought a lot of laugh and good time to all of us. I think we laughed that loud the first time of the year. We are so quiet and so reserved, and then when you started the game, like ooh, ooh, and ooh, there's so many oohs. I like that game very much. Well, this course is called Advanced Research Methodology. It would take about 42 credit hours, but I made it in a condensed and simplified version that we would try to cover as much as possible this morning. And I hope that you would enjoy my teaching, and it will not spoil your stay in Chiang Mai. Nobody would want to come to Chiang Mai to listen to a research methodology class. There are two types, I think, of teacher in this world. The first one is the teacher who make a difficult subject easy to understand, and another type is to make an easy subject so difficult to understand. You may have come across these two types of teacher. The first one would probably create a lot of wows. People would say, "Wow, he's so knowledgeable. He's so great. He knows exactly what he is talking about." But the problem is that nobody understands such a wow, and you create a good impression by making things difficult for everyone. But the second time is to make a difficult subject easy to understand, and that you won't get any wow, but people tend to take him for granted. But anyway, later on, the student would appreciate that he can understand almost everything he said. By the end of the class, I would give you the opportunity to evaluate my teaching, whether I would be the first type of teacher, make things difficult, or make things easy for you. Okay? Every graduate school in the world, all over the world, would make the research methodology class compulsory. They call it a required course, which means if you want to graduate in that program, you have to pass this course. This course is intended to help the students to prepare themselves to write a good thesis, which is mostly part of the graduate program anyway. At King's College, the research methodology is a required course. But I was talking with Pastor Gerard yesterday that perhaps we can offer another route. We call it a non-thesis track, that you don't have to write a thesis, but you take 4 more courses, 4 more courseworks, and then you will be entitled to graduate for a master degree in theology. I like to start with a very basic and simple question. What is research? What do you think research is about? Many times we use the word research, but it is not a research in the strict sense of the term. For example, when you browse the internet, try to find the good hotels in Chiang Mai, that is not research. You may search, you may search for the good hotel in Chiangmai. So in simplest term, research is a process of seeking out knowledge systematically and scientifically. This knowledge can be new, or it can support the already known facts. Once the new knowledge has been accumulated enough for a long period of time, it would become what we call a body of knowledge in different fields. So research would add up to the existing body of knowledge, for one thing, and also it would help in other areas. So when we divide research in many different types, and then you will see the purpose of each type of the research. The purpose of research is to inform, explain, or predict about certain phenomena based on the collected and analyzed data. It may not be the best definition, but if you think along this line, I think you understand what research is. I have prepared a lot in writing, but I cannot read right now because my handwriting is so difficult to read, and also the letter is too small for my eyesight. So I would use the slide presentation instead. See, throughout history, people have acquired knowledge in various ways. We call it approaches to knowledge. A scientific research is not the only way that people use to find new knowledge. There are three, at least, general modes of inquiry that people use for that purpose. I like to call it the authoritarian mode, the mystical mode, and the rationalistic mode of inquiries. Authoritarian mode, what does it mean? It means that people seek knowledge by referring to individuals who are recognized as a qualified producers of knowledge. It could be a tribal chief, if you live in a tribal society. It could be archbishop, if you live in a theocratic societies. It could be king, if you live in a monarchical societies. It could be scientists, if you live in a technocratic societies. For example, during the pandemic, we want answer, but we don't know where to go to. Who would give us the correct answer? What is this pandemic about? What can we do about it? Would the vaccine help or not help at all? Would the vaccine harm us in the long term? We never know. Whom should you go to and ask such a question? Of course, you cannot do research by yourself. It would take so long, and then the situation is so present at that moment. So we would rely on the authority in that subject. It could be the Ministry of Public Health, the CDC, so-and-so doctors, so-and-so research institute. Once they give the answer, people tend to believe that that is the truth, that is the fact, that is the answer that we are looking for. Would it be correct or not correct? We have to wait and see. You see, vaccine, I took 2 shots of vaccine. It doesn't seem to help me very much. I came down with very strong COVID, and people say that if you contracted COVID, it doesn't matter. The symptom would be just not to worry about, just very small. You won't be hospitalized. I had to be in the ICU of Chiangmai Hospital for 14 days, and it is very, very, very scary. They put you in a pressurized negative pressure room, no windows. I cannot see anyone, no visitors, only me and the bed. And then I thought, oh my goodness, my 2 shots of vaccine didn't help me at all. That authoritarian mode is wrong, And then the things, Pastor Gerard didn't take any shot. But he told me that would also give him a hard time, living in Singapore at that time. See, this is the authoritarian mode. Go to the authority. Simple as that. The second one is interesting. It's called the mystical mode. The producer of knowledge, seems to have some mysterious way of explaining the answer to you. He or she may claim to have a special power, mysterious power that nobody can access, and then they would give you an answer. For example, if a young lady would like to know that the boy who is going steady with her would be the soulmate, whom should she go to? Who would be the authority in this subject? Normally they would go to a fortune teller. It's very popular in Thailand. Of course, not among the Christians, but among the non-Christians. Next to the house, 2 houses beyond my house, live a lady who is a fortune teller. And what she would do, she has some certain kind of card. In Thai we call it the gypsy card. I don't know in the English word, but by reading that card, she can tell you the answer in life that you want to have. And she would come to my house and tell me that, Prisha, this tree is not good for you. You should chop it down. And you should grow another tree because this tree would bring, bad luck. See that house? The couple just divorced and they went bankrupted because they have that tree in the house. But so I told her that I'm a Christian. I don't believe in astrology. I don't believe in the fortune telling, and our relationship stopped from that point. And we rarely spoke to each other until I have the new girl to come and help Anjali to take care of Anjali. They developed good friendship, exchanging food, sometimes supper. But I told her that beware of the fortune teller. The mystical mode of inquiry is not, is not guaranteed. And as the society progresses or advanced, the popularity of this type of knowledge producing is decreasing. The third one is interesting. They call it the rationalistic mode, or sometimes they call it the Aristotelian deduction. You get the answer, or you obtain the new knowledge through the form of logic. You see, and then they claim that knowledge is already exists even before time. They exist a priori. They exist independent of our experience. You would be able to get this type of knowledge only through logic. Have you ever studied logic before? Yes? Yes, wow, that's very good. I have never had one, but I had Philosophy 101 when I was first year student in Bangkok 50 years ago. Professor of philosophy told me at that time that you can obtain any knowledge or new knowledge through logic. I don't really believe what he said, but he gave an example that I can still remember. See, he said that you would have to have what we call a major premise. If the major premise is right, and then the deduction from that premise will also be right. The example that he gave me is that, say, all men are mortal. Have you ever heard of this? John is a man, so John is mortal. It means that if all men die, John someday would die. It can be wrong only that the premise is wrong, that not all men are mortal. See, later on when I studied the Bible, I came across some character in the Bible who didn't die. You see, Enoch, for instance. So that it could be that some of us who are sitting in this room may not die because the major premise is wrong. But anyway, the rationalists believe that all knowledge can be obtained by strict adherence to the forms of logic. He gave another example like mathematics. You see, mathematics is independent of our experience. A mathematical statement is always true, provided that it is logical and follow the sequences of the logic. You see, like geometry, the proportion of the circumference and the diameters is always true, 22 to 7, no matter how small or how large the circle. This is independent of our experience. It is already there, and the way to obtain such a knowledge is through the form of rationalistic deduction mode of inquiry. Okay, here comes the present one. We call it the scientific mode. And, knowledge is obtained through scientific method. You must have studied about scientific method before. Scientific method can be broken down into the following steps at least. First, observation. You gather information from certain aspect of the natural world. I like to use an example. Perhaps that would help us to understand better the scientific method of doing things. For example, this morning you are at home and then you want to cook rice. You plug your rice cooker, and the rice cooker doesn't cook rice for you. You wait for 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes. The cooker is still cold. When you place your hand over it, you observe nothing changes. And then you know exactly that you won't be able to get rice cooked in that cooker. So you observe, you notice something, that it is wrong, it is not as usual anymore. Then what do? You ask question, why is that the case? Why my rice cooker is not working? And according to your observation, you ask question. You don't ask any question you like, but you ask question related to your observation. And after that, you form a hypothesis. What is hypothesis? Sometimes I said research comprises of 2 words, re and search. You search again and again until you find the answer. Hypothesis comprises of 2 words also. Hypo. What does hypo mean? Hypotension, hypoglycemia, what? Hypothyroidism, hypo mean low. Hyper mean high. If you have hypotension, you have low blood pressure. If you have hypertension, you have high blood pressure. So hypo is low. Thesis is the proposition that you want to you want to propose to the academic community at large. So this is not high enough to be presented to anyone. It requires testing, in other words. So you form a hypothesis. You try to explain how or why your rice cooker is not cooking. Hypothesis can be an assumption rather than fact, you see. And then you predict from your hypothesis. You can predict if you change outlet, you plug in your rice cooker to another outlet, it might work. And then that is called a prediction. You predict. It would be as you predict or not, we never know, unless you try. You try to plug in rice cooker at other outlet. It's called the hypothesis testing or prediction testing. So let's say if you switch to other outlet and the rice cooker cook, can you conclude that your hypothesis is right? Your first hypothesis that the outlet is broken, so we change to another outlet, it is working. What if you change to the second outlet and your rice cooker is still not cooking? What would you do? What would you think? Maybe the rice cooker itself is broken, right? So that you form another hypothesis. When the first hypothesis is rejected, the researcher would have to form another hypothesis. See, I think when you do research, if you have a strong theory or a strong knowledge on a subject, it would help a lot in terms of formulating hypothesis. For example, if you know something about electricity, or if you are an electrician, you would think differently because you have certain knowledge. See, if you have tools, if you have an equipment, you see, sometimes they have a screwdriver that you can put it in, stick it into the electrical outlet, and the light shows up. Wow, that outlet is good. You may want to try that first, even before forming a hypothesis. You see, the tools help a lot in doing research, and the tools that we are talking about right now is the statistics. See, in this course there are two parts. The first part is the methodology. It would teach you how to do research step by step. The second part is the statistics, and that would help in terms of data analysis. When you have collected enough data, you need some tools to take care of that data that you have gathered. See, or if you have another tool, which they call it an ohmmeter, that you can check if the electricity circuit is broken. So this tool is very simple, and then you can know the answer almost right away. Without the knowledge of electricity, without the proper tools, you have to go through a lengthy process in doing research. Switch to the second outlet, still not working. And then maybe you try to plug in the toaster or the fan. If the fan is working, and then you can conclude that your rice cooker is faulty, things like that. If all of those works, you would think perhaps we don't have electricity in our house. You see, you go to the main switch and see if the fuse is broken. And the fuse is okay. You look at other house, they all didn't have any electricity in their house. You can conclude that there was a power failure. Like we went to the restaurant, and all restaurant closed because of the power failure. But if you look at the next door neighbor and they have electricity, only your house doesn't have electricity. It's another story, you see, because you may not pay the bill and the electricity cut off electricity just for your particular house, you see. So all of this is the scientific method. You try to find the answer through the scientific method. It's not the deduction. It's the collecting of data from your observation. The opposite of deduction is called induction. See, I was told a story once. There was a Catholic priest. In a Catholic temple, they call it temple, monastery. Okay. They would have a learning hall. Every morning, perhaps from 9 to 12, like us, they have to learn something. That academic gown that we are using, the black one, and the hood and everything, is came from the Catholic tradition, learning tradition. So I was told a story. I don't know whether it's true or not, but this is interesting way to understand this type of approaches to knowledge that we are talking about. Why the Catholic priests are learning, and then someone just wanted to know how many teeth does a horse have. This is the knowledge that they want to obtain. But how can you acquire such a knowledge? How many teeth does a horse have? If you use rationalistic mode, you would say that, horse has 4 legs and with a hoop. And it so happens that if you know certain animal that has 4 legs and also has a hoop, you know how many teeth that animal have, and then you can conclude that horse would have the same number of teeth as that animal. That is the only approach to knowledge that they have at that time. So they spend time over and over, try to think of the animal, this animal, we don't know, this animal, we don't know how many teeth they have. There's one Catholic priest just raised his hand and said, well, if you want to know how many teeth does a horse have, why don't you just go out and open the mouth of the horse and count every one of them? You know what happened to that priest? They literally throw him out of the learning hall. It's so unorthodox. It's so unimaginable. What are you talking about? We never thought that way. That is the starting point of the scientific method that we are now using at the moment. We collect data, open the mouth of the horse and start counting. And then you're not sure, open the second horse, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and then after you have collected enough data or evidence, you can conclude how many teeth does a horse have. What's that?
36 to 44. That's what they say.
36 to 44. You see, how many teeth human being? How many teeth do you think that human being have? You can't remember. How many? 32? How do you know it's 32? Have you ever counted your teeth? The dentist say, you see, you rely on the authoritarian mode. We trust that the dentist knows best. So if they say that we all have 32 teeth, we believe him right away. It may be true or it may not be true. You see, if you're a scientist, you have to count. You have to count. You see, but we don't have the scientific mind. We We tend to put our trust, on someone who is the authority of that subject. In this case, it's the dentist.
You mean count your denture, on your denture, how many you have?
Denture is man-made. All right. Okay. And then after you complete this whole cycle of investigation, you probably want to look back the whole process, looking for any flaws that you may have and try to correct. And if the hypothesis is rejected, you have to form a new one. You see, in research, it doesn't matter if the hypothesis is rejected, but you cannot produce knowledge by having a research work that all of their hypotheses are rejected all the time. It won't give you any benefit of that. Okay. In a nutshell, research is a process of searching for answers in a systematic way through scientific methods with the purposes of describing, explaining, and predicting. And this answer you receive from the research will be added to the existing body of knowledge, which in turn would benefit the society and the development of science and mankind. Let me see. Long time ago, I was walking in the street of Tokyo aimlessly, which the Japanese never do that. They are very purposeful people. They walk and they fast, and they seem to be going somewhere. But for us, I just enjoy watching the street of Tokyo. I found myself standing in front of a Sony building. That was quite a long time ago, 30, 40 years ago. And in front of the building, there was a big electronic sign saying, "Research makes the difference." So I went into the building. They let you play with any, electronic devices in that building. You can listen to any radio in the world. That 40 years ago, it was very, very, very advanced technology. Research makes the difference means that research makes Sony product different from other product or better than other product. Right now, it's not the case anymore because many companies, Samsung, put a lot of money and emphasis on research. So that struck me. Research. I myself used to work with the National Research Council in Bangkok for 6 years before moving to Chiangmai and joined Chiangmai University. At that time, I trained researchers because many different organizations, including university, would send people to study research methodology. We have a 4-month course equivalent to a 42 degree of the course offered in university. But we put a lot of emphasis on hands-on experience, the fieldwork experience. You have to learn things by doing things. Learning by doing is the key to almost everything, including research. If you study research methodology and you have never done research in your life, you may get an A, grade, but it won't help. It won't help. See, a wise man of the East once said that the essence of knowledge is having it to apply it. So you have to be able to apply what you have learned. And in our we want to help students who study this course to better prepare for writing a thesis, because thesis work and research work is almost identical. It's almost similar in steps of doing research and steps of doing or writing a thesis is almost the same. That's why they require every graduate student to study research methodology. I don't have a watch with me, and if you think that this is a time that we should go for a break, we can do that.
Let's appreciate before we break. This course is number 6.
6551.
1.
6551. 52. The answer is 2. Okay.
Research. And we have another course called 851.
What is that?
Thesis.
Okay.
Can you just on online just make the difference between this course 652
Okay.
and the other course 851?
All right.
For the sake of the recording.
Okay. Good. 652 research methodology is the preparation for the 851. In other words, you study how to do research, how to write a thesis, and in 851 you actually write it. That's it. So without taking this course, you can write a thesis, but you will get confused so many in so many steps, and you might know where to start, how to form, or how to test the hypothesis. This course is preparing students for that course. Would have been actual writing, actual research, conducting for their study.
So the actual writing period, how does it differ from the research methodology period of study? In terms of weeks, in terms of months, or years?
Okay. Research methodology is a 42 credit hour course, but thesis can be 1 year, 2 years, depends how hard you work, and how well you get along with your professor sometime. Yes.
Okay.
I had that experience, so I know.
So it's not a matter of sitting in a class.
No. You are working on your own, but once in a while you can come and consult with your thesis advisor. Before we get to that point, we have to assign the thesis advisor to a student, which means that professor and the student would be working together toward the completion of the thesis of the student. Mostly one professor would have 3, 4, 5. 5 is almost the most. Sometimes 8. We call it advisees. That means that students who are working with the advisor.
So it is possible then that our students may actually have in mind what they want to write.
Yes.
Before they take 652 research methodology.
It's possible. Yes, it's possible.
And rather than wait until the end of the 42 credit hours.
Right.
And then try to think of.
Right. There are some factors need to be taken into consideration, though. Like in my case, let me give my experience. When I went to Syracuse University, I have prepared in advance the research project that I want to use it as a thesis writing. I have the title. I even have the actual research work back up, because I work with the Chiangmai University. So I'm so proud. I'm so comfortable. I think that I will finish the course very quickly. So I went to talk to my thesis advisor, and he didn't agree with my topic. he said, well, if you want to really do this, you have to find someone else. I'm not capable, I'm not knowledgeable enough to give you a sound advice. In other words, I'm not interested in your work. He didn't want to say that, but what shall I do? Either change the topic or change the advisor. Changing the advisor seemed to be faster in my thinking. So I go to different professors and they don't want to take me. Oh, preacher, I have already 8, I have already 5, I have no time for you, things like that. So I have to come back to the old professor, original one. So, sir, I would be willing to change my topic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I have to do it from scratch again. And he said, well, in that case, it's okay. I can take you as my advisee. So I started to write, a statement of the problems, doing some literature review, and try to form the hypothesis and collecting data. Data is in Thailand. Flying from the U.S. to Thailand to collect data is very expensive. So I contact my friend here in Chiangmai University and then to supply me with the data. Okay, so everything seems to be fine. Praise the Lord for that. But the man moved to other university. Oh, my goodness. Can you imagine that? I said, oh. But so No, I cannot. That's already 4 years in the U.S. already. I said, well, sir, I would be very grateful if you can still have me as your thesis advisee, and then we can do, advising or consulting over the phone, or writing. People rarely use email at that time. Email is still very new, so he agreed to do that. So I was like an orphan, no advisor, but I just kept on doing. And once in a while, I would call and consult with him. See, that's the student's life. It may not happen at King's College, but it can happen in any universities. Things happen. Professor got sick, he changed jobs, he got divorced, has no mood to give you advice. That is the... also another thing is that the chemistry between the professor and the student is very crucial. If he or she doesn't like your face, then it's
This brings up the question that in the college, is there only one way to get this done? For example, you bring in a student, he qualifies through the courseware, and he does a comprehensive exam, he takes your class already, and he's ready to write the thesis. And then he looks for a thesis advisor.
Yes.
And then he finds one. And then he begins the journey of writing 1 year, 2 years of a thesis.
Yes.
So that is one route, and
Yes.
that is a traditional route.
That is normal route.
Normal route, okay. Would the administration of the college, or any college, consider another way of doing things?
Like what?
Where a student already knows what he wants to write, and then approaches the university, then goes the other way around. That means you cannot enter a university without first approving your thesis.
Oh, okay.
To cut short the...
I see what you mean, but not so many students will be that well prepared.
But because
there might be some.
because we are dealing with mainly second halfers, people in their second half of their life. They've had in half their life to think about things, and suddenly they realize, hey, I need certification, I need whatever, ordination, whatever. Who can I approach? And I do have a specialty already that I've been working on for many, many years and preaching on, and it's my favorite subject.
We use that as a screening interview question for the students at Chiangmai University. When they come for interview, we would ask them any topic of thesis in mind that you might have right now, and if you do, just explain to us. And some students are well prepared, particularly those who are in the teaching profession, and they are well prepared than other, like government officials and business people.
We have a rule in Singapore. Before you enter Malaysia in your car, you need to have 3/4 tank in your petrol tank. You cannot cross into Johor from Singapore empty.
I noticed that.
You understand?
Yes.
So I'm thinking this way, before we take in a student, what if we have a 3/4 tank rule? He cannot come empty.
Okay.
He must prove to us first that he already has something in mind to write. How about that? Something to think about.
Yes.
Because it would mean it self-selects, it's self-organized.
Let me ask three of us here. You have anything in mind to write about? If I would ask a question like this for your thesis. You see.
I always like to connect my faith to the roots of my faith.
Okay.
So that will be my approach.
All right.
Something to break, something Israel.
Yeah.
Something like that, in that direction.
Yeah.
Good, great. At least that's a general direction. I mean, don't come in empty tank. Must have something. I don't know. It cannot be. Right. At least you have a general idea of where it's something to do with Jerusalem, Israel,
Yes.
Neapolitan vision. Well, so many things to do with your faith and your roots of the New Testament. Yes. At least something, right? Rather than zero. Then we cannot take them in. I think so. It's just a thought, just something to think about. Or that would mean that before they apply, they would have some time to think.
From we can put this design from our part in the brochure, and the student would know that if they want to enter King's College, they have to come prepared. Half a tank is good. Doesn't have to be 3/4 of the tank.
Okay,
But the reason why it is such a restriction, but the reason why it's such a restriction is because they do not want the Singaporeans to come into Malaysia and take full tank.
That
of course,
robbery.
There, but
the logic is different.
Robbery.
But,
it's the same idea. Yeah, correct. You don't have the King's College to pick everything.
Yeah.
But rather to give.
Yeah.
Where do you give? Yeah, I've got a. Okay. Please. Let's
Nassel,
do
please.
the survey first.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back.
Actually, I'm thinking of what Dr. Preacher said a while ago about the logic. All man dies. Are mortals. But there is an exemption that in the part of the Bible that some of you here will not taste death.
Yes.
And I want to, who are those in the Bible who did not face that? Is really John the Baptist. I'm very yeah, that's so in my mind. I don't know how to do it yet. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a sect that believes he hasn't died yet, and he's still alive somewhere in Nashville, Tennessee, or Kentucky or something like that. Yeah. They all
Okay.
migrated to America.
that in front of the
Okay, yeah, we'll take that offline.
All right.
Anything on,
Just this is question time. Please ask any questions.
on the whole process? What do you think about that thought about students coming to the university with already pre-prepared?
That is, I think, would apply to quite a lot of senior citizens, as you mentioned. Yeah, that's very true because they will not come in empty. Definitely not. And so they would want to present their ideas and their thoughts. But it's a matter of guidance.
Yes.
We may not have had that kind of a systematic approach, like you say, teachers have, because we had to do it from scratch. You know, even though our research may not be really deep, but we have done something like that. You know, so we can have lots of things to write about, especially biblical questions, issues in life. I think that's a lot to go back on. concerning the thesis.
I used to teach in 2 or 3 Bible colleges in Thailand. I feel that the professor in the seminary are much kinder than the professor in regular secular universities. They seem to have like a father's heart to the student. The grading system, the guidance through the research work is done in a very beautiful relationship fashion. Like in secular university, you don't get that kind of compassion from the professor. They're strictly professional. And
I have an actual student in mind who has approached me from Singapore, and he's already got a doctorate degree, but he is looking to take our master's in theology. His is in entrepreneurship. And my approach would be to very simply send him a text message and ask him to write in answer to this question. Reflect on your own journey in academia or your own learning journey. What are the key areas of expertise you have developed over time? How did these areas come to be your specialization, and how do they inform your current research interest? These 10 questions were actually passed on to me from one of our thesis people, and in the previous CNX Accelerator, and she'll be joining us with tomorrow, I think. But it seems to me that you could do both routes, the traditional route and perhaps this route here, because the way that he answers this question will already tell me the preparedness and the at what level is how much of his tank is full or empty, right?
what field of specialty he has for his doctorate?
Entrepreneurship,
Business.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's already ordained in non-Levitical ordination.
Okay.
But now, he wants a certification, which I'm very happy to do. But let's, So when I receive this answer, it's almost as though I can predict what is his quality of writing just simply by the first question.
Okay.
Becomes the final exam almost, something like that.
There are some universities and colleges that offer what they call a thesis only program, which means student doesn't have to take any coursework, just write one thesis and finish. Or maybe they would require him to read certain books and come for a conference with the faculty or with the committee thesis committee once in a while, and the rest of the time, students would have to produce their own thesis. The British system use a lot of this type, They study very few coursework, and they think, they research, and they write more. American is coursework focused. The students study a lot of courseworks, and then for a thesis, it's only 12 credit hours, the most, the maximum. Advantage and disadvantages of these two systems is quite clear. Like if I study in the U.S., when I come back to teach, I don't have to do anything. Just copy and paste. I just took what I studied and come back and teach at the university. And for the graduate from the British system, they have a hard time because they have to construct, what to teach and how the subject can be divided, because they have never studied before. They would be more analytical thinking. I think the temperature here is so cold. You feel that?
Yeah. No.
You're okay?
I'm using my Arctic jacket, so I'm
yeah,
fine.
I'm even with jacket on, I'm cold.
Yeah, we can bring it down. Yeah.
Can what time is it? Can you tell me?
It is 11.
We can go for coffee. They
Yes.
prepare coffee for us. Okay.